Hello world, are you ready for this? I'm not. As you can tell by my poor presentation skills and my poor studio/living room, I'm not ready for this. But I have awoken as the false god of Mercury. Um, Mercury gods are messenger gods. They travel between heaven and hell. Um, but a messenger god isn't really that helpful in Facebook era and X, Instagram and all that, but they are also known as the line between good and evil. They are harmonization gods as well, and it's the harmonization skills that I will be bringing to the table. Uh, False God is there's a story. There's two stories. The one where false gods come and take over, but I want to be known as a false god because I don't want to be taking over religions. So there's no worship or you know converting to Mercuryism or anything like that. Um, it's another story for another time. So yeah, I'm going straight off with false gods. You can worship whichever ascension god you want, but the story I'm doing is to divert you away from hell and earth. Um, and this is now happening. So first of all, um, this is real. So I'm not going to bore you for what 2 hours it normally takes to explain this, and just to say, oh, it's all a dream. Satan came to me and told me that you know, he's coming to get you. I'm actually going to tell you in a pretty much atheist way, um, or reading revelations from the Bible at the end. No, I'm going to tell you in a real way. So basically, when it hits that this is actually a real explanation for hell on earth, and the Satan protocol is real and it's backed by psychological studies, then I want you to bear in mind that the Satan protocol has been going on for about 100 years now. So it's not going to happen overnight. So there's no need to, you know, you know, loot, raid, cause trouble, panicking that the end is nigh and it's going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight, but we are getting into um, the violent stage of the protocol where you have to start to destroy one another, and there'll be more on that later. So it's not beneficial for me or you to go out and start, you know, acting in a violent, satanic way, because then you're just gonna have the police come round to me flat, and um, I can't help you if I'm dealing with police. So as far as um, the apocalypse goes, you need to actually go up to the ascension gods and start, you know, behaving better rather than acting worse, um, because it's not beneficial for any of us. So the short answer is, you know, you should be religious, and religious is exaggerated. Like my powers, you're thinking it's going to be something major. It's not. Um, but I am powerful in knowing what's going on, knowing how people work, and knowing how the system's going to collapse. But that's pretty much it. Don't expect me to walk over water, you know, unless it's an ice ring. Um, but the religion was exaggerated, but the battle of good and evil still continues. And as you can, as you committed loads of evils over the past, we're looking at about 40 years. Um, yeah, 80s when it got completely out of control. Started hailing Satan and doing whatever the hell you wanted. Um, the mechanics of religion has broken, and you now you can pray as much as you want, but without the mechanics of good versus evil, um, you're going straight to evil, and hell on earth now needs to happen. So um, yeah, if you just want the short version, be religious, donate some money to my PayPal account, and I will be making a codex, a rule book that aligns with the natural order and law to fix all these problems. But if you want the long answer, we need to start off with the meaning of the universe. Okay, so you had the Big Bang, and the universe keeps getting bigger and bigger. You know, you have galaxies and you have solar systems, which have got like a heliosphere structure, an egg-like structure. You got your sun, you got your planets orbiting the sun, and then you got loads of other solar systems with no life on them, etc., 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 etc. One thing to learn is that the planets actually interact with our planet, and then like the story of the Garden of Eden. You'll never find the Garden of Eden in Africa. The Garden of Eden story was Africa. Africa used to be a place of a green place, a forest place, plenty of plants and trees, but it was turned into the desert from and humans were driven out into the desert by the sun. No, the moon. Sorry, the moon god would be Yahweh. That's why it's one of his stories. So the planets need to align properly to interact with the Earth and to create life. So that's one of the key things here, because what you've actually got with the story of the universe is none other than a pregnancy system. The Big Bang, giant period, it put all the spacecraft into the womb, and then you've got the fertilization process, which was the supernova explosions, and you basically got billions of different attempts to align properly and create life. So our biological system is millions of sperm to one egg to get fertilized. The solar system's pregnancy is billions of eggs, and then the chances of creating life is 1,000,000,000 to 1, probably more. And that's what happened with us. We were the 1,000,000,000 to 1 chance of everything, all the planets aligning to create life. So all you're seeing in the universe is dead eggs, and that's why we're protected from things like aliens and stuff like that. So we're in a pregnancy system. So that can actually lead on to the next bit, which is going to be the meaning of life. Because now you know it's a pregnancy, you can start to understand, how we develop, how we grow. We started off as microbes in the sea, led to evolution, coming out on land, battering it out. But what was the point of the animal kingdom? What was it that separated us from the animals? What was our final development that actually said we're different from the animals? And the first key to the life is that we didn't win on brute strength. We were the clever monkeys who built tools, and therefore the first key is human intelligence. The meaning of life is brain power. and you need to develop your brain. But then you've got the question for the gods of, if God loves everyone, why is there so much war? Well, it kind of continues. And if you think about phones, you start off with, well, I started off with a BT Cellnet phone, and it was better than the ones in the briefcase, but this was just a basic ring people, text people kind of phone. And then you move on to your Nokia phones, your 3310, your Motorola phones, your BlackBerry phones, and you end up with your final battle of Samsung versus Apple. But phones are a good example of why you needed to battle, because the phone companies represent civilizations. The phone companies, rose to the top and became number one, but they also fell. You don't hear from BT Cellnet anymore. Nokia sells basic phones. Same with Motorola. Haven't heard from BlackBerry in a while. So you've got all these societies that rose up and fell, but the phones represent development. And you start off with a basic phone. You're looking maybe 23 years ago, and then 23 years later, you've got your basic supercomputer. So that's why humans needed to battle each other. Just like you needed to battle the animal kingdom, you needed to battle each other to develop not only the society but your brains as well. So that answers it. Obviously, it's not the answer you want to hear, but it actually it continues the pregnancy. You have to develop your brains. So yeah, in between all the battles, you were building your civilization, and this is where we need to kind of have a grasp on what's going on now. So civilization was not built on freedom, but it was built on slavery, and there's been various slavery over the time. You've got your captured, your chattel slavery. You got your bonded slavery, where you voluntarily sign up to serve another family, and you got your forced labour slavery, where you have to work to earn the coin to pay your taxes. Doesn't that sound a bit familiar? Even like the feudal system, which was quite popular, where everybody serves the king, is a form of slavery. The king owns all the land, and each person is given that land on behalf of the king, and then serves the king back. So yeah, the world's built on slavery, different forms, but we can start to get to a good slavery, bad slavery situation. Alright. I'm not the god of drawing or writing, as you can tell. Slave, master. Now, this is a key to our brains as well, because you all have inner master. You all want to be served, whether you go down the shops or you want to get gifts and all that stuff. But there's also an inner slave as well, where you want to buy presents and serve people. It's coming up to Christmas, and you're going to serve people with loads of presents. So you have both. But this is the black and white slavery, and we all agree that was needed to be abolished. because it's greedy. It's greed slavery. Okay, we all agree we don't want that. But in Fantasyland, what you want is we're all going to be like the white man, master-master relationship. We all get treated like masters, but that's not realistic because it just doesn't make any sense. You know, that's America, isn't it? We built this country on freedom, but I'm British. It's like we're the ones with the boats, so it's bollocks. You're not going to live your life not being served. You go to a shop, you want to be served. You want to go to the takeaway, you want to be served, right? So you can't have a world of masters. You can't have freedom. So you whip him into shape. Whoops. And what have we got here? Exactly the same as that. We've got greed slavery again. So that don't work. That don't work. So in the final evolution of slavery, you all battle it out. You all make each other miserable, oppressed, and all that stuff. But you were just supposed to finally learn serve and be served. You serve him or her, and he becomes a master. Or she. He serves him. So you got the result that you wanted, but you needed the mechanics to get it done. You needed to create a society based on serve and be served, not freedom, not master. That doesn't work. So what you're actually doing is by serving another person, you're being kind. So if I have a black guy working in the field for free, I'll give him a hut and some food because can't work if he starves to death. Then you think I'm a racist prick, and you need to get your signs out and stop this greed slavery, right? But if I have a black guy working in my field all day and I pay him a fair wage, do you care? Because in Britain we've got stories of black people wanting to work on the farm. It's like, you want to work in the field all day? Okay, doesn't that sound a bit familiar? But you don't care. And you don't care because of the money. Money's not power, but it is a symbol of power. And this is where you can start to build a working society model that you can understand why it was built and why we're in a state of decay that you can't get out of without interference. Alright. I go and work in a retail shop, stacking shelves, because I didn't do well in schools. So I go to Tesco. I don't earn that much, 1,200. stacking shelves in Tesco. So stay in school, kids, and get a good job. And I get paid 1,200 from Tesco. Now, what happens next is that, well, I'm going to buy stuff in Tesco's. I'm going to buy some food, keep myself going. So I buy the own brand stuff and budget myself, because that's how you do it in retail. So I'll drop down to 1,000 because £50 a week is pretty decent for me. Right, so points wise, I've earned 1,200 points of kindness for working for Tesco, and I've only spent 200 points in Tesco. Therefore, I've served the master Tesco way more than Tesco have served me. But this is where the magic happens, because you got your money and then you can go and go to this guy. I want it to be flowers, but it probably look like a ice cream cone. Okay, go to this guy with my money. I got 1,000. I don't love it that much, but I'll give her 50 quid's worth. I presume that's a good amount. So we do 950. 50, right? And this is your basic where the mechanics start to go in. I've served Tesco, but I'm getting served by the florist, and I don't know the florist. I haven't worked with flowers. Closest I get is daffodils, but that person has worked all day, putting the flowers together, making the bouquet, and yet I don't know him. And this is where the magic of the kind of slavery starts, because it's just, you've been kind to me based on the symbol that money represents. It's like I gave you a bunch of paper, and then let's draw a really bad bank for some reason. Yeah, cannot draw for anything. Can't even draw a pound sign. And we go to him. Pay what, 200, no, 350 in mortgage, I guess. So 950, 600 mortgage, well, after the mortgage. So I've got my mortgage from the bank guy. He served me and what do you use the mortgage on? So the construction worker serves me with a house. Now I've got to try and draw a car, which, yeah, bad. That's a real retail car for you. So 600, we'd pay £200 a month. So we're now to 400. Yay. And then I can't natural gas, but all right, so that's your basic economy. Obviously, it's a lot more complex. A lot of people working with different people, countries working with different countries, but your basic concept is you go to work, you slave away at your job, and then you come and you go and get served in the economy. So they've all served me, so that means I've become a master. And what happens after all these people finish work? They can come to me, come to me, yeah. So then they've all served each other, and they become. It was too big. Harmonisation code. You've all served, and you've all gone with your money, and you've all been served. And this is basically what most people do with their everyday lives. And nobody seemed to care that economy slavery was still existed. You haven't abolished it. You glorify it. So it's a function. It's a part of life. It was part of the pregnancy to all eventually enslave each other, and then you get that serve and be served mentality. You serve as the employee. You get served as a customer. Harmonization. So this person, the master in the economy, and this is where a lot of mental processes get wrong. You know, you can have your big cars, your big houses, whatever, but a master in the economy is still goes home and be a slave. And then you've got the other. And why is that? Because family came first. How many billions of years have the family been around, the family unit, the family way of life? Even animals have families. That is number one slavery. That is secondary slavery. And that's where one of the big messes, screw ups, has happened in our generation is you've all lusted after this glorious power, but the glorious power was secondary to the real power. And this is where we can start to, you know, build functionality of the man and woman relationship. So the man instead of doing the typical I get me house, got me car kind of mentality, let's copy and paste and go with I got a hotel. I let you live in a room free of charge, use all the facilities free of charge. This is a sexist system, by the way. On Ain't that bloody nice of me? Instead of car, we got the taxi service, we got free utilities, and then we've got the gifts as well. Okay, so all this I've worked for in the economy, and the economy's paid me back. But when I come home, I've given the wife, this stuff free of charge. That's kind. So I've served the wife, and then she's the master of the household. Okay, she's the queen, as you would say. But here's one of the big problems: man's servitude is measured. Women's wasn't, and yet they still were appreciated, despite what feminism says. The traditional housewife still served a man, and it can be copied and pasted from economy principles. It's like, can you go in the economy and get somebody to look after your children? Yes. And do they charge for it? Yes. Does your wife charge for childcare? No. Childcare free of charge. Isn't that nice of her? Weatherspoons, somebody will cook for you for a price. Your wife will cook your food free of charge. Bloody nice of her. Then you got your cleaners, you Mighty. She go work for Mighty, get paid for it, but she works in your household free of charge. Bloody nice of her. And then delivery as well. While you were out at work all day, she's walked down the shops, she's collected all your stuff, does like Just Eat, Deliveroo, charge you for delivery. Yes, she would do it free of charge. So she served you back. The ultimate master-slave relationship. You act like slaves, but you treat each other like masters. And it's all linked to the economy as well. And you've got your harmonisation. That's when things were at its peak. That's when the sexist system reached its peak. Men should be men. They go into the economy, serve and be served, and come back and serve his wife free of charge. Women should be women. You should look after kids, cook, clean, do the shopping, and free of charge. And you're both serving each other, and you both get treated like masters, and you have the harmonisation. So that's that leads up to your 90s, 50s housewife and stuff like that. And you can probably see where this is going. But every time you serve and be served, you have a drive. You have your dopamine to you serve and you get that dopamine as reward, and you get the brain development. And this is why it's key that you understand the purpose of life, because we know it's about intelligence. We know it's about this divine purpose of harmonization. So what happens if you decide to go against it? Most religions were basically telling you to live your life like this. Look after your family, look after one another, love thy neighbour, because we're all serving one another. Don't slag them off. And yeah, religion was telling you to be a good person because all of us are connected. So when the principles of religion were rebelled against, um, you started, you know, going out for number one. It's like, well, going out for number one in, slavery is pointless. It's very disrespectful because, a lot of people are serving you and then you're not serving back. Then it's a master slave relationship and it should be abolished. Um, and this is pretty much what's happened. Everyone's out for themselves, but it's like you're not harmonizing, you're not circulating the money properly. So once you deharmonize, once you go against the pregnancy and go against the gods and the natural order, there has to be a backup plan because, 9 billion years, I think we've been around. Then you've got thousands of years of civilization. And then you have one generation of complete screw ups that think they're owed something when a lot of death, brutal battles, torture has been in the name of your development, and you just go and screw it up in a couple of generations. Well, you can't do that. You're acting like spoiled little brats. And the Satan protocol is there when ascension gods fail, or the way of life, if you want to be atheist about it, yeah, when that fails, then you need to be destroyed because you can't just live this selfish life. You can't just build these selfish civilizations based on one guy's fantasy of, oh, we need a high GDP. Well, let's enslave everybody in greed slavery to get that GDP, and it's all going to backfire. So the Satan protocol, in a real sense, is the Universe 25 behavioral sync psychological experiment. For those who don't know, it's a mice utopia. It had a capacity of 3,000 rooms, and it had as much water as you need, as much as food as you need. Nesting materials were plenty, and no predators. So basically, you can just live this life without no purpose. And it did grow and grow and grow, but eventually it took a turn for the worse, and it started to decline. Females started to retreat to long penthouse boxes, abandoning nests, abandoning children. Doesn't that sound familiar? Feminists. The beautiful ones started not to engage in society, and they retreated. They kind of just when everyone was sleeping, they would go out and get their food, and while everybody was active, they would hide away. Does that sound familiar? Incels. There was a lot of violence, a lot of cannibalism, and this is where we're getting to with the violent stage. There's killing for fun, which is a major concern. So yeah, it was done 25 times, and every single time you start off with 4 rats, they grow, and then they end up destroying themselves. And we are mirroring this this psychological experiment, which was based on overpopulation. But the key is it never got to overpopulation. It had 3,000 capacity and it only got to 2,200 max. That means there's something else going on in this experiment. Yes, there may be overlap, but the key thing that was happening in this experiment is that the mice couldn't do what they would normally do in the wild, and they had a lack of purpose. They couldn't continue with their part in the pregnancy. Excuse me. And they basically were described of dying of mind and body. Dying of mind is pretty much what's going on at the moment, but we are starting to see a lot of damage to body. There was these mysterious deaths could be linked to this Satan protocol. So so the Satan protocol activates when we have a lack of purpose, when we can't serve and be rewarded. We start to this Satan protocol activates because we must go forward, but if we can't go forward, then we must be destroyed. So what's actually happened is I'm not going to raise your kids. I want to go out and work, cook your own goddamn food, and clean your own goddamn house, get your own stuff, and that means and what have we got, people? It's a master to the slave relationship. This now needs to be abolished. So screw your hotel, screw your taxi, screw your utilities, and screw your gifts. They're linked as well. So abolish all that. You're no longer serving, the society's not serving me, so I'm not being treated like a master because society won't serve me something useful. It's not serving the family, as we said. It's like it's secondary slavery to the family, and this is where it's ballsed up because it is no longer a meaningful economy that will serve the family. It's a selfish, greedy economy that will only serve some fantasy, some guy behind Excel just getting his jollies off his GDP stats and all that, because once my master relationship goes, then everybody else mastership goes. And one of the key answers for now is like, what's the point in working in this environment? So your money ain't worth shit. It's true. Or your money was a symbol of power. It was a symbol of the mechanics of the economy. It wasn't power itself. And this is where a lot of economies are going wrong, because you're all expecting us to want to work for money, but the money doesn't symbolize the repayment that the economy that we should be getting from the economy. We should be getting all the stuff and building our families, but because our family model was destroyed by feminism, that's pretty much why we've got a lack of purpose and why the brain development is slowly decaying. We haven't got anything to work for, and this is showing up in Gen Z. I'll explain millennials in a bit, but why are they quiet quitting? Why don't they want to show up for interviews? Why are they just quitting? It's because of this. Because Thomas Sowell made the comparisons versus greed slavery back in America versus economy slavery. Economy slaves were hardworking and driven, whereas the Greek slavery victims couldn't be asked to do anything because they weren't getting rewarded. And that's pretty much what's led to the abolishment of Greek slavery, because they just weren't. You need to have that serve and be served relationship, and that's what the economy used to do. It used to serve our families, therefore it was worth everybody serving the economy. At the moment, your economy just is useless, and the main cause of the Satan protocol is anxiety attacks. And when I had an anxiety attack myself, I was actually shocked just how powerful they are. Because when you read on the websites that it can be feel like a heart attack or stroke, like my body went completely white on one side. I had my face kind of like starting to go numb, and powerful palpitations and stuff like that. I wasn't right for days. It's like you don't realize just how powerful anxiety attacks are, because you do get anxiety some points in your life. It's actually it's good for it. Makes you drive forward. The adrenaline's there to push forward and succeed. But once you're trapped in a world where you can't do anything about it, that's when anxiety becomes really dangerous. Because one of the key things that people don't really pick up on anxiety attacks is that while you're going through it, something happens to the mind. From when the adrenaline's pressed heavily on the front lobes, it affects your positivity, it affects your caring, it affects any kind of kindness. And it's like I was having an experience similar to Chester from Lincoln Park, where he's saying, you see your phone and you just don't want to answer it. You just want to, people to go away. That is kind of what happened. Normally you would just answer it, make sure they're okay. But if you don't want to do it, if you don't have that positivity, it doesn't work, and it can really damage your body. It can really affect like working ethic as well. You can just wake up some days and just be like, I ain't going in. I ain't even going to answer my phone. Not going to call them. I'm just going to lie here in great pain. And just it's this kind of deletion of kindness is what's going to cripple the economy. Because we also know it cripples desires. I know that because Resident Evil 4 VR is out and I can't be bothered to play it. It's one of my favourite games of all time. My second favourite was Resident Evil 7 in VR because it was VR. So the two combined is like, I should want to play this, every single day, but I'm just getting those kind of headaches where it's like it's destroying all that I used to desire, which will destroy your consumer base. If you don't desire anything, you don't want to buy anything. And this is why the Satan protocol is slowly growing bigger and bigger, and it's destroying everything we know. It's also, it gets rid of sexual desires. Well, it gets rid of sexual desires, and you don't want to be making families, so it destroys as well. And this kind of when it takes away your kindness, your humanity, and all that stuff, you can start to understand where all this dodgy stuff is coming from, especially like suicide and stuff like that. Because no, I didn't try it, but I can understand why people just walk up to a noose and then go for it. But the ones who didn't probably were going to, and it was they probably got the noose around the neck, and then the adrenaline started being used by all the fear, um, thinking they're going to lose a life, and then once the adrenaline went away, they could get the mindset back, and that's why we need to be cautious of these anxiety. It's more deadly than we think it is, and it's more destructive because it's designed to either you have to use it or you have to be destroyed. And what the economy is doing is making us in a position where we can't drive for success. It's not going to work because you got both genders in work full time, and it's you can't build a family. Therefore, driving towards things to pay for your family is not going to work. And this is why it keeps on building. And then there's one more thing we need to consider, because we know there's problems at the moment where people like Andrew Tate are driving towards that answer, but I don't think it's going to work. And like, if you actually listen to the girls, they're not happy in their marriages, because they want this great divorce. They're not bothered anymore. It's because getting a woman to do the housewives role may serve men, but it's not serving women. It's not serving years of feminism. It's like they did want this kind of lifestyle, and once you put them back in the kitchen, which you're planning on doing, they're not going to care. They're not going to take it seriously. It's not the greatest thing ever. It's basically they're just going to be back to the start of feminism, where they're just bored housewives and they want to do something a bit more, and the family will fall apart. And early signs, like millennials, basically after the Me Too movement, they started marrying, and then the marriages are just falling apart. They're not happy. High domestic abuse and stuff like that. So that isn't going to work if it comes back. And once you try and force this onto society that don't want it, you're going to cause more anxiety amongst women who don't want it. They're not going to give a rat's ass. And then they're going to bring down the man side of things. And it's just going to be a complete disaster. But then you've got another problem. Let's say you had intelligence and you thought, right, we need a family model, but we need a family model to reboot this society, the economy, but it has to be in line with feminism. So you go like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the man, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, woman, gays mix and match, and then Sunday be a day of rest, of course, for the sun god. So we start off with basic principles of feminism. It's like we're going to do half and half. We're going to, no more mix and match, no more treating sexism like a buffet, no pick and choosing, half and half. Right, so the easiest one is the man's hotel. So if he pays for a hotel, well, for his home, in the sexist system, is he going to use it himself? Of course he is. He's going to use the rooms. He's going to use the kitchen, dining area, living room. He's going to use the bedroom. So 50% of that is selfish. right? So he comes in, pays his mortgage, but his mortgage is only um, half of it's towards himself. It's only the other half that is kindness. And he's serving his woman with 50% kindness. Same with the taxi. He still drives himself about, but then he drives his woman about, which is kindness. Women still cook for themselves. They didn't starve to death while feeding the man. They had their own portion. So they cook for themselves and they cook for the man as well. So what happens with the feminist fantasy is that the woman empowered by a job now does 50% of her own payment, and it becomes selfish. So we know kind of slavery was based on being kind, and then when we make ourselves equal, it turns to selfish. You've taken half of my mortgage off me. That was your half for me to be kind to you. You paid it yourself. It's now kind. It's now selfish. Same with cook. Cook is kind of has a bit of kindness because you're gonna cook for me half the week, and I cook for you half the week as well. But it's more of a payback system. It's not as good as a full-time cook. Cleaner's got to clean my half, got to raise my half of the childcare. It's all just selfish, and that's why the more egalitarian we get, the more separated we get, because you change the power of kindness to selfishness. Egalitarian is equal for normal people like me, who have trouble pronouncing it. So yeah, the more equal we get, the more separated we get. So when you try and reboot this, it's like it has a slight bit of kindness, but it's not worth it because in a twin piston model, you're only serving yourself, and basically, it's not slavery. It's not kind of slavery at all. It's just selfish people. It's like you do all your feminist desires and you get it perfect. You're just going to pay for yourself, and therefore you're a great, housemate, but you're not actually serve me one bit, and therefore this can kind of explain the disconnect from men and women, because in men's story they were serving women with their own power, and with their own servitude of kindness, and when women came in, they were draining the power away from men, and if women buy their own car, then they don't need the man's taxi service. And you know that with the stories of why are men so obsessed with the cars? It's because in the sexist system, the cars was a chauffeur for the women to impress the women. But when you've got an equal system, you can have a nice Ferrari, and people will just like, well, that's a nice Ferrari, but the girls can just drive away in their Fiat Punto and not really care. And this is why the men's side of the story is that, yes, they did get demasculated because their purpose were being robbed by feminism, but it doesn't benefit women because their purpose was to provide women with kindness, and when it becomes selfish, it's just not worth being together for, basically. And that's then we get to the woman's side of things. Feminism have fought for power for since the beginning. Well, you already had the power. You had the power of kindness, and you were worshipped. We put you on that pedestal, which is now gone. But you had the power of kindness of childcare, cook, cleaner, and delivery and all that. So the feminist mentality was to be double powered. they took their own power for granted, and that's why it went unregistered during feminism. The housewife was basically slagged off all the time during feminism, saying, because in their belief they were going to get man's power, but the power that they had as women, to be worshipped in that sense, was the housewife's power. So they expected double power. What they didn't expect was the big nothing. They didn't expect that end of feminism, you do all your own stuff, I do all my own stuff. I'm not going to appreciate you one bit because you don't do anything. Modern day women have nothing to offer, which is true. Push, you have failed on chivalry. You have failed to buy us drinks. You have failed to pay for the first dates. You sat there with feminist greed, that you were going to be still worshipped as divine women, beautiful women that all men desired, and take all this stuff from men, and we were just going to continue serving you. But we all know now that it just ends up in disaster, and this is why we're now collapsing. You got all this dating dysfunction between men and women. Men are blaming women, women are blaming men. Men are actually right, women are right in fantasy land, but they have to live in reality with the rest of them men. Feminism does not benefit women the way you imagined all those years ago. It does not give you double power. It actually destroys the power that you had, and you can't claim man's power. Apart from taking man's power off himself and then turning it into selfish. And this is why you've got this behavioural sink now, because even if you were to do that twin piston model, you would still be falling apart, because this is not what you were designed to do. You were designed to live your life as kind of slave. Hang on, I don't talk this much, can you tell? Right. So you were designed to create a serve and be served relationship with everyone. You serve everyone, everyone serves you. Everybody can live peacefully. But instead, we've gone down this route, and it's all just it's all pointless. There's no, it's not being cynical. It's basically factually correct that the modern day society that you are driving us into is not fit for humanity. And if something isn't done about this, it's all going to go completely screwed up. One other thing with anxiety, if you don't care, then there are going to be those certain groups that are just violent, and they will be violent. And you've seen this already in like Dublin, Chicago, there was a town in Wales. But you're seeing this especially with young children, where it's they don't care, and that's what anxiety does. It does take away positivity, and we're in trouble, because sexist system just won't work. The quality system will just lead to a selfish system, and then something needs to be done. So that's where we're at. You can start to understand like why people don't want to show up to work, because whereas in the old days you could start work and build towards families, you can't build a family anymore, because they wanted both genders to work full time, and it's not fit for purpose. Nobody can see functioning families. They don't want to be doing functioning families. So when you're trying to get the youth to work 37 hours each, and you can't offer anything in return, then this is where the economy cannot recover. And you're seeing this globally. You can have fantasies about other people's economies, but everywhere economies are just slipping down into chaos. Doesn't matter if it's China, doesn't matter if it's Japan, Britain, USA, make America great again. Why isn't it great already? The economy's falling apart. That the whole world is now being held by the Satan Protocol, and it's basically telling you you can't go this way, or you're going to destroy yourself. But you keep on going because you believe in free will. But why don't you have the free will to actually do something about the chaos that's going on? And why don't you consider money as a symbol of power rather than the power itself? Because you know the mechanics are failing. You have economists pointing out that why young people don't want to work and stuff like that. But you're not putting two and two together. As long as your Excel spreadsheet has numbers going up in the GDP, you think this isn't going to come and get bite you on the ass. Well, now it's going to bite you on the ass because all these years of greedy economists and governments, it's like, where's all your children? It's like, where's our family model? And there's just been one huge problem, and one thing that you're gonna go, it makes sense, but I don't believe you, because if we cause so much chaos as boomers, why the hell has it taken this long for this, the behavioural sync to reach this kind of level where tensions are so high we are going to get to the violent stage? Well, this is how it goes. So this is the British timeline. We built ourselves on Christianity. We were God-fearing people. We lived Christian lives. We had the value systems of no sex before marriage, obviously no adultery, and all the rules of God were within Britain. But then we start off with World War One, and that was 1914 to 1918. So what happens after World War One? If you built your life based around Christian values, you believe that God loves everyone, even though there's all the death and all that stuff. But when you go to a world war and you see all these all this death, all these young kids dying on the battlefield and everything like that, you kind of have to come back from the world war and go, there might not be a God. And it's fair enough, because that's the way Christianity was built, that God loves everyone. But once you see that, it's like it's too much overpowering reality compared to the fantasy of the Christian model, that you start to question your faith. And what happens when you question your faith is you start to question the rules of God. And the problem with questioning the rules of God is that you didn't know the formula of God. And if you don't know the formula of God, then you kind of just you start making presumptions on results, with your free will and all that stuff, that like with the first like godless mentality comes from the Flapper Girls in 1920. Right, 1920 to 1929. So the rule was no sex before marriage. You had to take love seriously. You knew the results of love. You had all the scripture and everything like that. You had the power of love, but you just presumed it was, a natural state, and that when you started to become godless in World War One, then you started to break that rule, and you looked at the value system, and it's like, well, we can have all that love and relationships from the value system, but we can do that with anybody we want. And that's when your sexual revolution started, and the flapper girls were, basically party animals, getting drunk all the time and sleeping outside of marriage. And these were the first slags after the war. But there's something with the flapper girls that we need to learn. In a dignified community, a religious one, you have your ladies, right? And they're fully dressed. What the flapper girls did and this is very key to modern day society, because we need to learn from these. They flashed their legs. This was the first sexual cheap thrill that the sexual revolution brought. And basically people were saying, oh, these girls are sorts of, they might as well be practically naked, showing that much leg, and the degenerates. And it's like, what's so big about this is, if I tell modern day women that they shouldn't flash their legs, they don't care. And here's the thing, is that neither do I. That would be a modestly dressed woman nowadays. And this is where we need to learn from the flapper girl, because what the rule is that in 1920, a girl flashing her legs like this was a sexual thrill. It was a perversion. But we've now gotten used to it. And what that means is that it's not liberating for women to degrade themselves sexually, because we adapt, we get used to it, but that's not a big deal to us anymore. And you see the same in like Muslim countries. Muslims fully dressed, Westerners got their legs showing. Westerners are dirty little whores, and they're pissing off Muslims. Westerners don't see the big deal. Muslims see the big deal, like they did in the 1920s. So that's pretty much what you need to learn. Is one cheap thrill in one generation becomes normal the next generation. You went to mini skirts, don't care anymore. You went to showing your bellies, don't care anymore. You went to showing your cleavage, and then it's like you wouldn't pillocks when you did that. It's like, oh, don't look at me cleavage even though I'm showing it. Those pillocks. But then you get to younger generations and they're trying to free the nipple. It's like, oh, why don't you just show them the cleavage? It's because we've all adapted to you showing your cleavage. That's not a big deal anymore. And we're now getting to a point with this kind of sexualization of women, where you can't sexualize yourself anymore without walking around naked, and because you put porn everywhere, we're not going to care. And so another thing feminism got wrong is that whoring yourself out was empowerment, but it wasn't. It's the way you lost your sexuality. you've lost your cheek frill of your legs, you've lost your cheek frill of your boobs, you're now wedging it right up your ass, which nobody cares. So clothes were a big deal, and you now lost your sexuality over these years, and that's what you need to learn from the flapper girl. Is like, if you don't care about girls flashing their legs, then don't expect younger generations to care about any kind of behaviour you considered hoary in your generation. You put grandmother, mother, daughter. Grandmother may flash her legs, so she's a bit of a tart. You got your mother with your miniskirt. She thinks grandmother is the respectable lady, and then she degraded herself with the miniskirt, and then the mother looks at the younger daughter where she's wearing practically bra and knickers, and it's like, well, the daughter's looking at the mother as the normal default as a woman, and then degrading herself further to a point now where it's pointless. So yeah, it's key to learn that, because it's not beneficial for going forward. So that's pretty much the start of it. It was a rebellion against the value system, and you had value system, but you had the flapper girls representing the sexual revolution. Then those pesky Germans caused World War II. No, I don't know the dates off by heart. The 19. So they got they bided some time with their World War II, but then we come back, and then the sexual revolution, the one that people know, is the 1960s one. So again, more death in World War II, more pointlessness, more rebellion against the value system. So sexual revolution just brought everything from the birth control. Swinging 60s were called swinging 60s for a reason, and you basically just had value system and sexual revolution battling it out for all these years, and it can be explained kind of like this. Okay, you got your traffic light. Yeah, you got your traffic light, and when you approach it, it's red. What does that mean? It means stop, right? Don't have an orange, but I'll have to do orange. Caution. And of course, green means go. And what you need to realise is that you see a traffic light in real life and you see a red light, you do not see that. You see a symbol and you see the symbol of red, and your mentality said stop. So it's symbol and then linked to mentality. It's a symbolic link. You see the symbol of orange, you recognise the caution, and you see the symbol green symbolises go. you do not see these are mentalities, these are symbols, symbolic link, and this is what is important to the battle of the sexual revolution and the value system, because you keep on battling it out over the generations, and you have the value system was the popular one with your TV, your pop music, and everything like that. You had to build this group around good family values, but you had the symbols in like sex, drug, and rock and roll. Well, that's sexual revolution. Hippies, free love, sexual revolution, and then hip hop. Well, they just had the sexual revolution, bent over shaking their asses in the music video. So yeah, sexual revolution in these kind of factions, but you had the value system in the popular faction, and this is where this is what my parents' generation would have seen. They would have been, kind of rebellious in the sexual revolution, and then they would have gone onto the value system. But what happened in our generation is that we saw that kind of society. We saw a value society in popular music, popular culture, and we saw the rebellion just as boomers did. But then when it comes to like when we were 13, something happened, and with Britain it was clear impact, and it's when they changed the popular music into the sexual revolution, and Britain had one big impact, whereas other countries may have had similar kind of creeping in. Ours was the proper, you're now sexual revolution, this is how it's got to be, and it was Girls Aloud in 2002. So Girls Aloud, those pesky people. So you're there as a kid, you've got your playground, you've got your rock and roll goths and all that, you've got your hip hops, and then you've got your value system in pop music, and it's all fun and loving. But then these troublesome girls come into the picture, and like foreigners may know the Spice Girls because they were worldwide success, but then eyes were still on Britain to produce something along that lines. And then like this was like based on an X Factor type show where they do like they're all going to compete to become a girl group, and then the men compete to be a boy group, and the men were sent out to die. I don't remember the song, but it sounded like a Christmas jingle. The sound of the underground was pretty good, and this is where it got distorted, because it was about a sexy girl group, and this was a sexual revolution coming into our lives, coming into our playground. Because what you saw in this girl group, not only was it perverse for that time, they were like, now they look like a bunch of churchgoers, but when you look back at that time, it's like they were wearing jumpers and miniskirts, and they were doing this kind of camera tease in their first music. They eventually degraded themselves even more, but once the Girls Aloud phenomenon kicked off, it was sex. You saw these girls in the papers. You had all these stories, pictures of them, perverse pictures, for that time, and then just perverse twist on stories. It's like them sharing a bedroom together. It's like, well, if you've got twin beds, then you're more likely to share a bedroom. But it was all this. Finally, the boomers just pushing the sexual revolution onto the millennials, and this is where the timeline breaks, because we were trapped in a complete playground of the sexual revolution with very few outlets just to be traditional. Um, because this is how the Me Too movement started, with the women whoring themselves out. And this is why the Me Too movement has thrown men off, because we can't really grasp this situation of, this, the way it was perceived in like the news and stuff like that, is that men just woke up one day and had a meeting and went, who likes rape? And we all agreed, and then we all just got out of control. And then suddenly, the feminists came to save us. It's like, from our evil selves, it's like it didn't happen like that. Most of millennials my age will remember, in their youth, girls allowed coming in, and the girls started being perverse. They started wearing the perverse clothes. In between, girls allowed and the Me Too movement, we've had loads of trends like breast implants became popular because they had to get the boobs for the men. It's like, well, why are you getting breast implants if you don't want men to, sexualize you? We had all the perverse clothing. We had them lesing up at bars at one point, just to get men excited. And then we had the stage where if they came to us and it's like, well, why would you think we're sluts for doing that? It's like, well, we had the stage where they were literally wearing pants with slut on the butt. And it's like, so this is why the Me Too movement is kind of just throwing men off, because they're not fighting back, which is kind of sad. But the past 20 years has been pure sexual revolution mentality. Going to bars and trying to take women home with you was the normal thing to do. And half the stuff in the sexual revolution, in the Me Too movement, the women were just as bad. Women were going home with men, sleeping with strangers, jumping in beds with men while they're drunk, grabbing men's asses and stuff like that. They were running off to the toilets, dragging men to have sex with them and all that. It's like, this is why there's now this gap between millennials, Gen Z, and the boomers, because the boomers are still stuck in that mentality of the sexual revolution being the rebellion and the value system still being in place, whereas we just had pure sexual revolution. And this is where things dragged out, basically. So the way it works is that we had the value system in our lives because we had grandparents. So my grandmother would have been a traditional mother or grandmother, and then traditional grandparent as well. They were in the sexist system. And then same with that generation, we could look up to that generation and we could basically see what they had, and we could attune our brains to, we want that kind of life. We want the values, man, woman, move in together, build a family together. So we had the value system imprinted onto us. But then you get to the boomers rebellion, and then we also had that forced upon us. And that is what I call the millennial glitch, because we're kind of like, we were told the results of a loving relationship. We were shown it, we seen it, but we were told a different formula, and the formula was of the sexual revolution, and the mentalities merged together. And this is where the men and women kind of separated, and you need to get from pure sexual revolution where it's the girl's fault to the Me Too movement where it's the girl's fault for putting the sexual revolution, but why did we go from the girls eagerly, pursuing men to have sex with them, and then they ended up just crying rape basically. It wasn't rape. It was use and abuse. There's probably some rape in between that, but the rules of the sexual revolution basically meant we could go around shag who we wanted to, and these girls just wore all the sexual revolution stuff, and they egged the boys on. So, right, it was 2002 girls. Well, it was 2017. The Me Too movement, but it takes a couple of years to take into effect. So, what happened in between these two, the starting point and the end point of the sexual revolution? Well, the Me Too movement, we just know from all the complaints of women that the men were bastards, literally. Now, a bastard is actually supposed to be a really bad term, but it's a really bad term based on a bag. And it was a bag on a horse. So the horseman would come in, he would ride into town, sleep with a woman, and then sleep on his bastard bag, and then ride off into sunset in the morning, and he would leave her with a bastard child as well. And this is a story of the bastard, and it goes back to cowboy days, and you basically just got your bastards again. When you entice the men into the sexual revolution, you just basically said, you can sleep with me on one night stands, and that's basically what they did. And then you got your bastard children as well. Bastard children. What happened after the Me Too movement? Well, was violence towards women. And this was both domestic and in the streets. What's happening also, there's an open pedo problem. And then you listen to the women as well. They're shite in families as well. They're not family men. The women will basically scream at them for hours upon a time, and the men just don't listen. So poor family men. So the Me Too movement exploited what was going on in the sexual revolution, and for the first time in history, it was purely the sexual revolution. You've probably had crossovers in the previous timelines, but you kind of mix and match, whether these people value, whether they are sexual revolution. Well, millennials had pure sexual revolution, and you just got poor quality men. And this is why we went from this fantasy of the sexual revolution being the great empowerment of women to the Me Too movement, because if this is these have now formed the final battle between men and feminism, which is going to be the Exodus. You may have seen MGTOW, Team Incels, Passport Bros, all that over the internet. But MGTOW started back in 2000s. Team Incel 2000s. Incels became male dominant in 2000s. Um, so you've kind of got two different teams of men here. You've got all these poor quality men in the Me Too movement just using and abusing women as they please. But when women became fully sexual revolution in 2000s, you started to have a rebellion. And the question is, who are the rebellion? And it's very obvious when you look at that, is that you keep on asking, where are the gentlemen nowadays? The gentlemen were the original rebels, because the gentlemen were men of value. And when you force this feminist ideal onto these young girls, they betrayed the gentleman's family model, and they betrayed the gentleman's lady, and basically all the rules of the value system to have a functioning relationship. So the ideology was that women were going to just boss us men about, and we were going to bow down to feminism and just do what serve them whatever. But the first exorcists were the men who would have loved them, basically. The empaths, the gentlemen, because gentlemen are not alphas, they're sigmas. Sigmas were always due to overtake the alpha, because alphas are dumb. They're just, big and strong, but sigmas are mentally stronger, they're tacticians and empaths can actually feel each other's emotions a lot better and work better in relationships. And that's why the sexual revolution failed, because if you want to love somebody, you plan a life, as in your wife, your kids, family, and all that stuff, and you can plan ahead. But when the girls turned into these sex pests, they ended up just being incompatible with incels and MGTOW. And that's basically my story as well, because I am an incel, as you can tell. But my drive in life when I was young was to become a gentleman, fall in love, get married, get me house, and just live happily ever after. But when the girls started to change with the sexual revolution, they started to become incompatible. We don't like sex, basically. It was a rule that feminism thought they could break, but instead, the male rebellion actually started in 2000s, when we actually just did walk our own way, and get away from this. Because in the millennial glitch, it's like, okay, you see these men before they were exploited, and they're getting all the girls. So you have to become stronger during your life. You have to go out, get stronger, get your job, get your house, and all that stuff. Get over being the shy kid and all that. But once you find out that this is what the men, this is the men that these women have been dating, it's like you now know that the sexual revolution just degraded women to sex objects, and these men just went at them, basically. And then, because the millennial glitch, in a woman's sense, it kind of meant that you could have the value system, the love, the way of life, the family, the kids, but you could have the sex before marriage. And then these men are going to magically turn into gentlemen, what, after a one night stand. Oh, I must meet your mother, and we must prepare for a wedding day and stuff like that because you're so magical. But men separated, um, and it was the Sigma men who just walked away, and selective breeding, and then it was the alpha men who just turned into the animal state and just humped away until it all kicked off. With the women, it's like these men are just using and abusing you, and it's like, well, you were all warned about this. Everybody was warned about these sexual revolution girls, um, but to millennials, it was all fun. They knew what they were doing. Their parents didn't know anything, because even though the sexual revolution's been around for 100 years, somehow we didn't know about this use and abuse culture. And the millennials are the first ones where it's brought us to the limit of humanity. And it's like, we now know what's happened is that women demanded um, everything but only gave sex, because they lost all the power from destroying the family model, and then they lived this fantasy for so many years that it will work out. They went from one mattress to another, and all in the dream that this man will become a future husband. It's like, but the other men were actually just building themselves up for a traditional woman, but we didn't realize how many women just absolutely gave into the sexual revolution. And this is why it starts off as the girls' fault with the sexual revolution, and they're trying to blame the Me Too movement on the men, but it wasn't. All women did with feminism is got rid of every bit of kindness, every bit of relationship we had, and just replaced it with more sex, and then expected everything in return for it. But in reality, men just saw women, who were only good for sex. And this is why we're getting this dip, this change in mentality after the Me Too movement, where the men got consistently attacked. And yes, they went downhill, and you got higher suicide rates and depression and all that stuff. But as men start to rise back up, because as this exodus where we're basically saying we don't need women anymore, women are now becoming weaker and weaker, because it's now just becoming apparent that we actually did improve during feminism. We did pick up the cooking, cleaning, get our own stuff delivered, run our own houses, and then you women just with this fantasy for 15 years of this sexual revolution is going to work out for you, but it crashed and burned in the Me Too movement, and you've now lost everything. You've lost everything from the family, and you've now lost everything from the sexual revolution. And this is where the behavioural sink is now happening properly, because there's no more fantasy. The girls' dream was that the Me Too movement would change us men back to being decent men, but decent men don't want we didn't want second-hand slappers, but we don't want millennial bangers with 7 previous owners. And it's like, that's what their plan was. It's like, we go shag around and the men will go shag around, and then we can just date the nice guy afterwards. But it's like, no, the nice guy's actually abandoned you. And there's another story that went on as well with the nice guys, Team Sigma. It's like, well, you want the kind guys now. Well, there must be a big batch of men that you can see as nice guys, but somehow don't date women. And it's like, well, they have to be intelligent, they have to be into arts and culture, they have to be friendly with both genders. When you talk to them, they kind of like get you, and they have to be part of the rebellion that went against the sexual revolution. And there's one group that's been in plain sight, and that's the gays. There's no such thing as a gay gene. There's a gay mentality. Love is a mentality. It's brain power. And this is where selective breeding came in with them. And then MGTOW probably tried with women in the first place, got burnt, and then started, trying to develop, get better rules for a better relationship. So this gay is like, the gays are the stereotype of gentlemen. Lesbians are stereotyped as big butch and feminists, and there's no. That's basically been growing. So all you've got is just basically men just leaving the dating pool, either to get better rights, selective breeding, or just basically to date one another. Because if they're sensitive and they're around a bunch of girls that are just have no future, not build into any future whatsoever, then they start to think about pursuing men who are kinder, who are that's why gays divorce. It's 60% of lesbians versus about 40% of gays. Is because gays were the original empaths who would bring love into a relationship, and that's why you get along with gays so much, is because they would have been good husbands to you, but they're now good husbands to one another. And so that's why the timeline's stretched out. We didn't live a normal childhood, but we produce results that kind of seemed like they were working at the time, where men did go after women, and they would pretend like everything was working, but the relationship wouldn't work, and they would go after another relationship until it just became. The reality is that you just need to, go out in the pool, and find them, fuck them off, because that's all the girls were offering. And this is why the girls cannot recover from the Me Too movement. It's like they're trying to recover on a fantasy that they're going to get all the value system come back, and these men are going to do better. It's like, these men don't need to do better than a lousy shag on a Saturday night, because you girls can't do better than a lousy shag on a Saturday night. It's a serve and be served world, girls, and you've now just learned the hard way of you can't do anything that you want to. You can't build this world based on your feminist greed. You actually have to build a world based on harmonization. So this is why nothing can recover, because these disowned you in 2000s, and there's just no reason to come back. And you see this with Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate's raised a challenge, and it's basically gone, we need to bring the sexist system back, in his own words, but it's practically what he's doing. And yet there's no rivalry. There's nobody come forward and go, you've put this way of life where women should be subservient to men, they should be traditional and all that. Subservient to men is a master-slave relationship. It's not going to work. Men should serve women, women should serve men. That's how we harmonise. But this is the contract we're giving you. The other people in Fresh and Fit has, jumped in and basically said, we want you to be a traditional housewife, but I want to go and sleep around with other girls, because that's basically what they need to do. That's not love. And there's no competition. Nobody's raising a challenge to Andrew Tate or anything like that, because everybody's just like kind of got that inner question of what would happen if women left the economy. It's like, would it be detrimental to our way of life? And it's like, because you feminists just did not want to help out, serve your men, even though we gave you everything that you asked for. Um, you don't have anything to give to us. There's no challenge to be made on behalf of women that if we keep you in the economy, it's going to be beneficial. We're going to have better lives, and it's just not true. So you can't, again, you're learning the hard way, girls, that you took the piss when it came to feminism. You like, as a modern day man, I expect to, provide the house, provide the car, provide the bills, all that. But then I'm also expected to, cook, clean, raise children if we ever have children, and do all the other stuff of modern day, of the housewife. And it's like, we expect that from you as well. And you're not presenting a modern day woman. You're presenting a 1950s woman who is taking the mick by not building yourself to provide anything to a family. And you can tell that because you would have questioned the family model years ago if you took feminism seriously. You going out into the economy and not providing for your families, it's pointless. And this is where this big sink is happening. You've got so many problems blowing up here, there, and everywhere, where nobody's keeping track of the situation. And then you're all expecting the magic to happen, but the magic was actually in the sexist system, where it kind of forced you into being kind to one another, because you're proving that you're not kind people. You're proving that now you haven't got your sexist system to make you kind by providing your house, car, and other stuff, and the girls have got had the power to be kind of cook, clean, and all that stuff. It's like, you're not actually, going above and beyond and just being kind anyway. You really are just products of a faulty system, and this system is about to crash in the worst possible way. And this is where I come in, because I honestly don't believe the sexist system will work, bringing it back. I think we're too modern. We've come a long way, and I don't think, like, you girls are not going to respect us or care for us when we just take, hundreds of years of feminism, probably more, and we just throw you back in the kitchen, say, just be a traditional housewife, and then you're magically going to like us for just because we say so. It's not going to work. But there is one thing that could work. And then Sunday's on its own. Right, let's just say, pretend that boomers weren't complete cokeheads and useless, and instead of actually destroying the youth for no other reason that they're selfish, they actually tried to build a world based on equality between men and women. So we go with the twin piston model, and we know that we're going to go out to work, earn our money, we're going to pay for the house, the car, everything. We're going to clean, cook, raise children, and it's going to achieve nothing. It's just going to be selfish. But if we work together, then we get it done. We get to that big nothing point. We could build on that. If we have a twin piston model, then whatever men do, women do as well. Obviously, there's some limits, tampons, all that stuff. But a generalized idea is that whatever you expect from men, you expect from women. Whatever you expect from women, you expect from men. So obviously, you you have your basics, cooking and all that stuff, but then you go to relationships and it's like, well, what do I want from this relationship? What do I want women to do in a good, healthy relationship? Candlelit dinner? Classic. So you have your candlelit dinner. But instead of telling the women to, um, sort me out a candlelit dinner and serve me men, I'm going to serve the woman with a candlelit dinner, and that becomes a standard of a relationship. It's like, so next time the women can do candlelit dinner. So push the relationship up with kindness, and then you can push the relationship up with kindness. Picnic from the woman, gets the basket out, we go down to the park, we have a nice day, and then I know that's a standard for the relationship, and then I can return the kindness and I can do a picnic as well, and the relationship standard goes up. Serve and be served. Cinema, the standard. Buy 2 tickets, one for me, one for her, and next time, cinema. We go, and then you can basically just. This is a very powerful mental standard because it's a teacher-student method. If you want something in your relationship, you become the teacher and you teach the standard of the relationship, and then the other person's a student. But as you're equal, the other person can become the teacher, raise the relationship standard up. Want some gifts? So buy some gifts on birthdays. We know gifts as well. So instead of expecting women to do women's jobs and men to do men's jobs, you can actually raise the standard of the relationship yourself. And this is very powerful because I'm not going to tell women to cook for me for 3 days a week. They can't even make a sandwich at this point. I am going to go into the relationship, cook for 3 days, raise that relationship standard, and then women as equal matches that standard. And this is a power to be unlocked. But we need to do this right. If we're going to put a twin piston family into society, then the rules have to be spot on. No more, I'm a boy, I have to do this stuff. No more, I'm a girl, I have to do this stuff. It's you set the standard, and you can now see a new rule that hasn't been applied in the sexist system, and this is so much better than the sexist system, but it comes at the cost of the big nothing, and the big nothing basically it sacrifices automatic kindness, which was a big thing in the past, but it also sacrifices individual responsibility of men have to set men's standard, women have to set women's standard. You set the standard yourself and you build a relationship. So if you're not happy in a relationship, you think of how to make your relationship better. You want a hotel for the weekend, okay, go on booking.com, buy some tickets or reservations, and then you take your man out to the reservation, and then he then learns that this is what relationships is all about. you like booking weekend, the next time he's going to go on booking.com, and he's going to book a place for you. So you have to build this kind of codex that if we're going to attach this to the economic system, you can no longer screw up. You can no longer do freedom. You can no longer do greed slavery. You have to go straight to kind of slavery. You must learn the rules and you must abide by that rules, because if you screw up and start to take more than you give in the relationship, then your relationship's going to go downhill, and there's no automatic kindness to save you this time. So this is what I'm basically working on, is this master codex, and it's, you got your family model. We've got you're going to be a dating model to stop this Me Too movement nonsense, and I would have to go back and remaster the law, family law and employment law, to work around this model. I can't just go into the government and say put men 3 days a week and women 3 days a week, and then that's that. There's so many questions that need to be answered. Well, what if I'm a millionaire and my wife does all the jobs? Well, there needs to be a rule for that, because and there'd be a law of priority. So in the twin piston model, you as a man still has to cook, clean, raise your child, and get stuff delivered and all that stuff, but you can then pay somebody else to do it. And this will change divorce laws, because in the twin piston model, divorce is basically you just split the family and that's it, because you both can earn, you're both raising children equally. There's no sexism in divorce. But if you have the law of priority, it's like, right, you're a millionaire, you pay your wife minimum wage per year, and then when it comes to divorce time, it's like you separate, and if she complains, it's like, well, I want half his money. It's like, you didn't earn half his money, you're not getting it. Well, I did all the cleaning and stuff like that. Well, you've got housewife money, you've been paid for your job, therefore you leave with that housewife money that you got, and you leave there with what you got. No more screwing people over, no more gold diggers. Same with like say you're slightly rich but not that rich, and you're like, I can't afford a minimum wage, but I still want to run my little business, and my wife going to do the housewife role. Well, what that means is that she's entitled to minimum wage or half of what you got. So when you're building your relationship, it will be, my wife's actually entitled to half of the mortgage. She's entitled to the bills paid. She's entitled to gifts and stuff like that. You're not begrudging your wife based on fantasies. If she's doing her job, she should be paid just like you. And again, this will be more explained in the codex, but more of a functioning way of life that represents the system. So, right, so the dating codex goes like this. We used to have a ring system, the wedding ring one, and feminism screwed that up, as with anything. But the first rule of a new ring system is that it's no ring, no go. Everybody has to present themselves on a friendly or business manner, whatever the circumstances. You're not going, no more sexual evolution, no more value system. Everybody's off mode, and this is the default one. So this is where you start off. Pretty much where we're at now, because women have driven all the men away. So it's like no ring, no go. We don't care. Because women shouldn't be in charge of the dating system because they screwed the value system up with the sexual revolution, and they screwed the sexual revolution up with the Me Too movement. They don't know what they're doing. So the next system lads and slags, this is your sexual revolution system. This will go back to the way before the Me Too movement. So you can go out, get go on the pool, try and get your one night stands, have shag buddies, all that kind of thing. But these rules will be based on the feminist push. It's going to be casual free, no commitment hookups, and you're going to have birth control, so preferably on both people. I know about the coil on the girls, maybe the injection. I know there's something's being built for the men, but when you're on this system, no children, because what about my rights? What about his rights? It's what about the baby's rights? And the way the children are acting now, it's clear that there has been mental neglect from parents by living this kind of lifestyle. So you live by the rules of this system of casual hookups, no honeypotting. If you get pregnant by a slight chance, you have to abort it. If you don't abort it, and you have one of those kind of hidden pregnancies, then on the rare chance of contraception failing, you can't see the pregnancy, then you should really adopt it. You can't keep chasing men. That's gone on the system that is designed for consequence-free hookups. So that's going to be your sexual revolution, with all your sexual revolution ideology, ladies. And finally, we bring back the value system. We will have the twin piston model in the background, and we can build back the full good life, the full structured life of you come onto this system, and it's the first rule is shove the sexual revolution up your ass. It was a stupid idea brought by feminists. It's all backfired in the Me Too movement. You don't do the sexual revolution. If ladies want gentlemen, we want ladies. It's time to burn your skank clothes, girls, and put some nice girls' clothes on. And this will be the serious relationship. That's a casual one. This is a serious relationship. So we go back to the value system rules of you have a dating system of going out, get to know one another. You have a coupling system where you're a bit more relaxed. You can have your first kiss, have your hugs, kisses. Hang around each other's houses. Be a bit more relaxed, but still be in a couple stage, and then finally have your marriage system, and then have your sex with the value system, the traditional way that it should have been done in the first place. But you can finally have a serious dating system when you've got a family model to actually build into, and this will solve so many problems because there's no more glitch. There's no more let's have a serious relationship, but let's try and hump each other before marriage. No, you want to go around humping each other, go on the lads and slags, and stop wasting my time. And the good thing about this is that the lads and slags get that kind of consent of their behaviour, because this is a default system and you have to jump onto that system. So when you put the rings on at 5 o'clock before you go out, you're actually agreeing to those terms and conditions to the lads and slags system. So it doesn't matter if you're slightly drunk when you walk into the Premier Inn. If I see lads and slags rings on you, I'm just going to let you go. It's basically par for the course. Um, so lads and slags, these kind of things happen. One night stands is kind of go with the flow. Ladies and gentlemen, if you come in with a ladies and gentlemen ring, I know that you don't want to have sex before marriage. Therefore, you are protected. I can kick up a fuss, and then maybe get the police involved because there's two different standards. So lads and slags, 97% it's not rape. But if you try to go no ring, no go, 97% it's going to be rape. 97% it's going to be rape on the gentleman system. Basically, as long as you're wearing these lads and slags rings, you are protected within that bubble, within that community of all people who wear the lads and slags rings. And that's how court cases should go and see the things. And ladies and gentlemen can start to have serious relationship. None of the lying, manipulative attitudes as well. So, and no ring, no go kind of protects like the overdeveloped girl. It protects wives and girlfriends. That's going to be a big difference of you don't have to lock your girlfriend in your basement, guys. She's wearing no ring, no go. Therefore, when she's dancing around her mates, if she's got a slag mate, then the men are just going to see the slag ring and go for the slag ring. And then obviously, if you wanted to, properly date somebody, you go on the ladies and gentlemen system, but your wife will be under no ring, no go, and therefore, no more locking them in the basements mentality. They can go out with a mate, and they will just basically get left alone because if we're all working on the same system, then we know that if going and approaching these people outside with the sexual revolution will get us into a lot of trouble. So you just basically homing your mentality to lads and slags. There will be gay rings as well. So basically, I've had this problem with gays where you're talking, you're friendly, you're making gay jokes, and then suddenly they're all in a fit with you because you thought you were trying it on with them. No, if I've not got your gay ring, you don't try it on me. You don't presume that I want a piece of you. You girls have no idea what I have to go through. But yeah, you have to accept the gay community, but the gay community must accept the heterosexuality community as well. And this will be the first actual integrated system where we can live side by side without annoying one another. I don't want you to try it on with me, but I also don't want to be a dick tease. So basically, yeah, just all the problems. Same with lesbians, they're just annoying because it's like, I have a girlfriend. It's like, well, she's not attached to your muff, love. So it's just like if she ain't got a heterosexual ring on, or if she ain't got if she's wearing a lesbian ring, we don't care. We're just ignore her. It'd be amazing how many of these girls are disappointed when they start getting ignored when you're in this situation, because yeah, and it will be gender neutral system as well. You girls need to start being kind to men. That was the glorious power all along. So for example, in the ladies and gentlemen system, because we have stricter formal rules, you will have a code word, and the code word will be slave. May I be a slave and take you to the cinema? Will actually take the mentality out of the friend zone and go, right, if I'm being a slave, I've asked to be a slave, I'm going to pay for the cinema tickets, the night's on me. But if the ladies want to date a gentleman, they come up to the gentleman, can I be a slave and take you um, out to dinner? As the ladies have used the slave word, they've committed to being the slave for the night, and they're going to pay for the dinner. And you know, we were men. um, yeah. So, and then the first date, obviously, you've asked to be a slave to a gentleman. Second date, can I be a slave to you? Can I be a slave to you? Can I be a slave to you? Etc. Because you need to stop paying half towards everything. If you pay half towards dinner, you've paid for your dinner, and that's selfish. And then you haven't paid for my dinner. Therefore, you haven't been kind. You need to learn. Like I said, you cannot screw up on the twin piston model. You need to abide by the rules of I need to be a slave to a man, and the man needs to be a slave to me, and we get that master-slave harmonization. So, are you bored of me talking yet? Because I am. So the Codex has been on and off for years, but it's now getting to a point where I need to dedicate all my time to this. I literally do have to go through laws and reinterpret them, get the principle of what they did, but put it into an equal society. And that is going from, all childcare laws, all employment laws. If you want a twin piston family, then you're going to have a twin piston workforce. Therefore, you have to have an employment law to say you can only have contracts for A week and B week. Obviously, there's overtime principles as well, but that's basically where you have to build a very complex interwoven codex, and it's going to have to be this big book of you need to do all of this rather than just trying one rule and watching that one rule screw up because society hasn't molded itself around true equality. It's molded itself around basically just a guessing game. Put women into work, see what happens, even though this kind of society hasn't been done before. So yeah, if you want me to go god level and actually fix everything, then donate some money to paypal.me and the false god of Mercury. I'll put the link in the description below, or join Patreon. What kind of money am I expecting? Due to the fact that I only have writer's block, trying to live my normal life, I need to get out and travel and go at this full time. I don't need that much money, so I would say minimum £1 per person. Not much, is it? But for a full book, that's going to save everyone. That system alone saves your engagement ring and wedding rings, so saves you a couple grand there. You can still do them as traditional, but if you've got no ring, no go, then if you're married, then you don't need to mark that you're married. You just have to be under no ring, no go. And if you engage, you don't have to mark yourself as well. So I would say £1, minimum, but you can donate more if you want. The end result will be basically a book with kind of law / self-help book, all interwoven, all with the principles of life remastered towards equal values, and that's how you can go forward and then take on Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate's put the sexist system forward, which we know kind of works in pen and paper, but it won't work mentality-wise. But with this codex, you can actually put forward something to governments, and then they can actually build the governments around this codex and around the twin piston model. So yeah, I'm hoping that you want to be safe from the apocalypse and you will donate quite a fair bit, so I can make this book free of charge. So yeah, basically just I'll put it free on online, and then they can put it into ebooks free of charge, and then like book publishers, they can veto the writer's fee and then tax as well, because God shouldn't be taxed. So yeah, if you do want me to save everybody from the apocalypse, donate your money. If not, then good luck with your governments, because they really do know what they're doing, don't they? Critical race theory, teaching white people that they're really bad just on the basis of the skin. That's going to make them end racism, apparently. So yeah, I would say good night, God bless, but it's hell on earth, so good night, and may the devil may not take your soul.